Hey everybody, it's Danielle and Ani Rivera. I don't know, every time I bring this show in, I feel like somebody needs a drum roll or an introduction. But if you're watching this show, more importantly, you know who needs a drum roll and an introduction?
Meet Baby Luna! If you're not watching, go to dkwstyling.com right now and go look at her.
You will not be disappointed.
My boyfriend and I adopted a little Frenchie puppy. Her name is Luna. She's 11 weeks old and she's 6 pounds.
She's so freaking cute. She's like, you know when like things are so cute you want to pinch them for some reason? Do you find
Cute
yourself
aggression.
Like, yeah. I do that to my baby all the time. I'll like pinch her leg and then she'll laugh and I'm like, you think that's funny?
You're like, I just want to bite your little leg.
Yeah, right? That's a normal feeling, right?
It's literally called cute aggression.
Ooh, yeah, I just want to like pinch her little paws and be like, so cute.
I know, every time I see her, I'm like,
Garrett thought I was weird the first time I like said that to one of our babies. I was like, I want to bite you. And he's like, did you just tell our daughter you want to bite her? I'm like, I just want to chew on her leg.
But in like a really cute way. It's like, I'm sorry, ma'am.
Oh, well, we had to bring her in for a second just to give her like a little mini introduction. She's got a brother at home, but he's too big of a tank to bring in.
Fuck, man, 27 pounds.
That's a big Frenchie, and then she's like a little
6
teeny
pounds.
Frenchie.
At the same age, he was more than twice her weight. He was 14 pounds.
Yeah, I remember when you first got him, I was like, he's a pup, he's big. But yeah, Luna, I bet Luna will be like half his size.
So I went and found a Frenchie weight calculator. She should be about 15 pounds.
Oh, that's like Chloe's size.
Yeah, teeny.
That's little for a Frenchie. Yeah, because that's like literally almost half the size of.
Oh, I think her bladder can hold about a liter of water, though.
Like, the puppies pee a lot. They can't hold it. They're like, look at her little puppy face on your arm. She's so cute.
Dude, we've been suckered in. Although I will say I've never seen my dog Ronald sleep so much in his life. Exhausted all the time.
Because he's been running. Yeah.
They don't stop.
Yeah,
it's shenanigans.
She's just running
so
around.
I'm going to pass her off to her dad, though.
Oh.
Matt, you're up.
Congratulations, you two.
Ta-da! Thank you. Do you have your phone? I don't even have my phone.
I don't even have my phone on me.
Oh.
I have a watch, though, so
Perfect.
I can time this.
Literally, I was sitting here, I'm like, I didn't bring my phone. I got distracted.
We usually do 30-minute podcasts, and we had to start setting a timer because literally we could talk for like an hour, and I'm like, man, that got so heated and so good, and we're still going.
We could do this. I sometimes wish we would do longer ones, almost like a long episode and like a mini episode.
I know. Well, we were trying to do back-to-back ones, and when they were an hour, there was a few days in a row where we did like back-to-back ones, and I'm like, I just can't podcast for 2 hours in a row. Like
that was rough,
hard.
Though. Those were a little hard.
Those were a little hard. So I was like, why don't we're doing them every week. Why don't we shorten them to like 30 minutes? So it seems like a perfect amount of time.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring this show in today, and the only thing I'm going to say is Nancy Pelosi. Is that how you say it? Pelosi. Yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
I'm gonna, before you keep listening, look.
Yeah.
This is not a political Democrat versus Republican, Trump versus Biden. That's not what this is.
I'm not even that political, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm like, if that's where you think it's going, it's not, so calm down. So here's what happened in case you didn't know. Nancy Pelosi, who's in the Senate, she had her assistant call a hair salon in San Francisco. And the assistant made an appointment for Miss Nancy Pelosi to get her hair shampooed and blow dried. Now, if you are not in California, if you're not in the United States, San Francisco is actually one of the few counties that at that time was still shut down and salons indoors were not allowed.
Correct. This was very clear. As I am a salon owner, they recommended, even in Orange County, that we take our clients outside to do hair.
For the full appointment.
Yeah.
Like, they were not allowed to be open. They should not have had anyone inside.
Right.
So, Nancy Pelosi went and got her hair done inside of the salon in San Francisco, in her county, where that shit was totally shut down. And what happened? The owner of the salon actually has cameras inside of her salon and released the video of Nancy Pelosi inside of the salon.
Did she release the video, or how did they get the video?
The owner released it. From what I've read, the owner released it.
Oh, okay.
And she was like, whatever.
Like, hey.
She was pissed.
Yeah.
Because she was real fucking mad. And the video shows Nancy Pelosi walking around inside of a salon that she should not have been in, completely maskless, which I'm pretty sure she was just criticizing Trump about that, but I'm going to let all of that go.
But what's weird is, number one, she knows salons should not be open, and number two, she's not wearing a mask. But her only defense was...
It was a setup.
It was a setup. But you're like, but Nancy, you're there and you look real comfortable.
And so here's my thing. Let's say if it was a setup.
Well, I watched an interview with the salon owner. I can't remember her name. And she's like, how could I have set this up? Her assistant called for an appointment with one of my artists And I've had cameras there for the last 5 years. I don't even know how this could be a setup.
Mm-hmm. And so here's my thing. Even if it was a setup, what you did was still wrong. You've deemed not her as her, but really the government at this point, especially in California, it's been so bad, have deemed an entire industry to be non-essential and fucking useless to where, oh, this is your entire livelihood? Well, too fucking bad. And now you tell me the industry that you've decided is not important enough to stand up for, you actually need these motherfucking services.
Right, exactly. But I'm like, who's making the rules? And like, this is what's so crazy to me. Like, even the salon owner, she's like, I don't understand how this is fair. Like, we've been closed for 6 months, and the guy interviewing her was like, it's not. Like, it is not fair. So I'm like, who decided that hairstylists and salons, like, who decided that we should be closed down this long?
Well, Governor Gavin Newsom, hello, California. He went and got a fucking haircut. That's what I'm saying. This, I think, is what's so ridiculously frustrating for me. It's you... Not you, they have decided we aren't essential, but then you choose to use your power and your position to reap the benefits, to break the rules that you have decided on.
That's like a police officer breaking the rules and like totally, like it makes no sense.
And to me, well, then at what point, and then what is their punishment at that point? Because to me, it is true. If you're a police officer and you break the rules in the law, you broke the law. If you're a judge and you break the rules in the law, you broke the law. If you're a citizen and you did it, it doesn't matter what your status is. It should be, if you broke the rules, you broke the rules, and there should be a consequence.
I just don't understand. Like, she's still in there getting the service, but then says it's a setup. Like, if at any point you feel like you're being set up, if you walk into a salon and you feel like you're being set up, wouldn't you, as a congresswoman, like, walk out?
Goddamn right. Do you know what my favorite fucking quote is? I was just getting my hair washed. Do you wear your mask when you wash their hair? Nobody wears a mask when they wash their hair.
No,
ma'am.
Okay. Well,
ma'am.
At my salon, when we were open, even when you were at the shampoo bowl, and let me get this clear, I don't like masks. I don't know if I necessarily agree with them, but I'm also like, cool, if we can stay open and we have to wear a mask, we're going to have masks, and we're going to make sure our clients are wearing masks and artists are wearing masks and everybody's abiding by the rules so that we can stay open and provide a service. So we even tell our clients at the shampoo bowl, if you don't want to get your mask wet, we have disposable ones that you can put on while you're getting shampooed. Why, Nancy? Because we're fucking abiding by the rules.
The rules that were set up for us. So that to me, and obviously we are very fired up about this. We never take this podcast political, but I feel that it comes to a point where it's
not even a political stance. It's literally like when I'm watching this, I'm like, the whole time I'm thinking, why are we shut down? Why are we shut down? Like, yeah, sure, the first couple months, great. But then like salons, and nail salons are just taking a beating. And I'm like, I gotta be honest, I know the safety procedures that we go through that we're trained on. And like when they came out and said, do hair outside, I was like, this is a fucking joke. Like, you cannot tell me that it is safer or more sanitary to do hair outside. You just can't.
No. But that right there should tell you the fact that they made us go to school. At least for myself, it was 1,600 hours. How much was it for you?
2,000.
So 1,600 hours, 2,000 hours. Inside of that, we had to pass an entire section on sanitation and sanitary precautions and everything like that. But now you go to tell me that we have to do hair in a fucking garage outside. That tells me that, first off, that's a fucking joke, which tells me that we as an industry are viewed as a fucking joke.
But yet everybody needs their hair done. Isn't that interesting? A non-essential business where yet people still want their hair done. Even during everything that was going on, like, women still wanted their hair done. Even if they were quarantined, they were like, oh my God, they were like messaging us. They're like, I can't wait to be open. I know I'm just home, but I want my hair in. It's very much an essential business as any of the other essential businesses.
And that's why it's just, when I heard about that, I was so ridiculously mad, because I know tons of artists that they're like, I'm on the brink of losing everything.
That's what was so crazy when he was a Fox reporter, and I can't remember his name right now, but when he was interviewing the salon owner, she was almost like in the brink of tears, but you could tell she was like kind of holding it back. And she's like, it's just frustrating because I have been in this area for like 12 years, she said. And she's like, and now I'm getting death threats and like hate texts and all of this shit like in her own community.
And see, that to me, and here's what's mind-blowing. Oh, we're about to take it there. But that to me, it does veer on a political thing where Democrats and Republicans, and here's my own personal opinion. I'm on the fence. I literally don't lean more one way or the other. I think people have some things I agree with, and there's a lot of things I don't agree with. So I can't say I'm full on one way.
Right.
It's just not who I am. But even inside of that, I feel that there's been so much of like, if you're a Democrat, you hate Republicans. If you're a Republican, you hate the Democrats, but not realizing that at the end of the day, regardless who's president, regardless of who takes charge, regardless of in the Senate, the House of Representatives, Congressman, it doesn't really matter. Like, it affects us.
Right.
So why are we the ones fighting and not taking a stand for equality for everyone and everything in every industry?
I just feel like too, like even not like going into politics, but whether you go one way or the other, and we've talked about this on some of the other podcasts, I always have to ask myself, well, what's a win? And like, what do I need to do in order to create a win for myself? And I, as a salon owner, I could see how she was like, my artists needed to provide for their families. You know what I mean? And so I don't know what the situation particularly was, like if they were open, but only open like, you know, one client at a time or whatnot. But either way, she's in a salon and she's not wearing a mask.
And I'm just going to say, like, look, at this point, I'm a do what you got to do to keep your fucking house person.
Totally.
Like,
I feel like you have to be self-interested or everything just kind of falls apart. At some point, you have to be like, okay, what is a win for me and what's right for me? You know what I mean? Whether you agree with masks or you don't agree with masks or
you think COVID is real or you don't think it's real at this point, I don't even care.
It doesn't matter. Like it's so much bigger than that. It was funny. I was flying to, where was I going, to Cabo for my anniversary and totally felt safe and I flew Delta, and I've actually really enjoyed flying with Delta during this whole pandemic and everything going on. And we're sitting there, we're on the runway and we're like getting ready to take off, and there's like, we're taking forever. Like we can't figure out why we're taking off. And all of a sudden I turn around and there's like, there's this flight attendant. I've flown with him a few times. He literally is like the most jacked guy. He looks like he's like a bodyguard, but he's a stewardess. But he's like kind of scary. You can tell he's got like tattoos coming out of his sleeves, and like he had his sleeves rolled up, and he's back there, and there's like all the stewardess are back there, and I'm like, oh, shit's going down. And all of a sudden, we're like, what's going on? I guess some guys had some open drinks, and they wouldn't wear their mask, and you're not supposed to bring alcohol on the plane anyways.
Oh.
But these guys were like not abiding by the rules or like whatever. So they ended up kicking off 6 grown-ass men. 6 grown-ass men. And I like, the pilot came out and he's got his mask on and he just says, he's like, listen, I don't like these masks. I don't like what's going on, but it's my plane and it's my rules. So if anybody has a problem with that, you can leave right now. And I was like, oh.
You're like, I think I'm just going to cover my nose.
Right? And so that's kind of where I'm at even with the whole thing. If you give us rules, if you set rules in place because we need to create a livelihood for our families, like we're going to do it. Whether we agree with it or we don't, in the end, it creates a win of providing an income for our families. So when you blatantly go to a salon that you know is closed and you don't wear a mask, it's just so fucking frustrating.
And for her to be like, oh, I didn't know.
Are you really going to play dumb right now? Because we know you're not fucking dumb.
And that's my thing. To me, it's about accountability. Take accountability for the things that you do.
She can't take accountability because they put the rules in place.
And that's the thing, though. It's in general, I understand no one likes to be wrong. Like, really, I get it. But do you know what's fucking crazy? I swear, had she just come out and been like, you know what? You're right. I did that and I'm sorry, and tried to fix it, it would have been water under the bridge within a few days. But because she's like, it was a setup.
Yeah.
And I was set up.
So dramatic about it.
And I feel like human nature, like everybody wants to do that. Even think about like artists with clients. They're like, oh, I mean, yeah, okay, I did mess it up, but it's only because she
was okay, hold
up.
You played a role in this.
You have to take accountability. And I feel that situations there, whether it's currently with politics, whatever your standing is, or Nancy Pelosi being a total dick right now, or it's a client that you don't agree with, or a stylist that you don't agree with, or it's your assistant or the owner of the salon, it doesn't really matter until both sides are able to take accountability. Guess what? It's going to be worse. Same with business partners, because I know there's some shit happening right now with some students, and they're like, oh yeah, well, she said I'm entitled, but I think she's a fucking bitch. Well, this and that. Okay, well, a relationship is two people.
Exactly. It's so funny because even in like my experience over the years, like extensions is one of those things. Like in the beginning, people were like, oh, those clients are way too high maintenance, I don't want to do extensions. In fact, my sister, who's older than me, who started doing hair before me, I was like, I really want to learn extensions. This is forever ago. She's like, oh, don't do it, those clients are so high maintenance. So I know that like going into that, you have to like give them a little extra,
gotta pat their back a little.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's a high-end service. It's more expensive than a haircut or a blowout or whatever, and I'm fine with that. Plus I wear them, so I can kind of relate to those clients. But I'll tell you, I've had some crazy clients. Like,
same.
so crazy. And it's so funny because even though there's been a few situations in my head where I can think if I was like trying to be right and I was like, well, it's your fault and you were like, even though this person was like legit nutball.
For sure. I've had a few.
And it was like, even like, I remember the assistant at the time was like, I was sweating when you were doing her hair. Like the minute she came in, there were so many sirens, like, I'm a crazy bitch. But I took her on, you know? Mm-hmm. And even when then later she came back and she's like, this hair sucks and and it's doing this weird shit. And she's like, and I want all my money back. And I was like, I'm not going to give you all your money back, but I'll give you like the amount of hair back, which was like half the service, which I felt was really generous. Mm-hmm. Anyway, long story short, like she went nuts. She like posted all these bad reviews, posted a Yelp, a YouTube, this, and this, and this, and this, because I wouldn't give her a full refund, right? Mm-hmm. And I had to I was so pissed. And I was like, you know what? What I learned in this is, number one, contracts. That's the birth of my contracts. Contracts. That was the birth of my contract. And number two, it was kind of like, hey, refund her and be done, and like take accountability that I took on a crazy person and I saw all those red flags. And the minute she sat in my chair, I should have said, hey, like I noticed it right then and there. You know what I mean? I should have said, hey, you know what? I know we booked this. I'm going to refund your deposit. It's not a good fit, right? So I learned a lot.
For sure. And we have that in all instances. Even there was a student a few years ago now that she was released from the program. And I felt at the time it was a very calm release. Like it wasn't anything personal. It's like, hey, this is what I've been seeing. We just don't allow it in the program. This really isn't the place for you. Oh, Lord in heaven. That turned into like shenanigans for literally like a year and a half.
Almost a year.
Dude, she was calling me the C word, which look, I'll say this. It's like low-key one of my favorite words. I don't care. I think it's like...
I'm not really triggered by it.
I think it's hilarious because people are like, I won't say it on this podcast because for sure I'll be bleeped out later anyway. Yep. But for me, and I'll say this, the reason I don't find profanity offensive is because I feel that words only have as much power as you choose to give them. Yeah. I choose to give it no power. Instead, I think it's a really funny word. But anyway, she was like crazy shit was going on social media. And even though, did it trigger me at the time? Yeah. Was it a little annoying? For sure. But later I learned, I'm like, you know what? I for sure could have handled that situation better. I really just should have got her on the phone, had a conversation with her.
Even if this particular person is like nutsos, you can still leave where you water down the fire before.
For sure. Like you don't have to throw gas on the fire because any crazy person is a total fire. But like, hey, even I look at that and instead of being like, well, fuck her, she's a crazy bitch, this and that, da-da-da-da. Do I feel, of course, on mine, like, was there justification of like, oh, that was a nutty situation? Right. Yeah. But you know what? I can also look at it as an adult and be like, here's the role I played in that.
And even as a business owner now, like, I kind of, because you're more involved with the students, I always back, like, I'm like, okay, I trust you, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, you tell me the story, I'm like, perfect, yeah, she's out of the program, whatever. But even as a business owner myself, I'm like, okay, I could have also jumped in and been like, okay, what's the situation? Let's talk to her. And even now, like, if any of our students inside the academy have any issues or problems, what do I say? Get them on the phone, Ani.
Yeah,
Get them on the phone. Because, like, you can, like, write somebody a letter and be like, you're done. Or you can have a conversation and figure out where they're at so that you can diffuse the situation instead of being like, oh, was that set up?
And I will say, tone and mood is everything. Oh, my God. There is a skit by Key and Peele that has me crying every time. And it's literally about tone where someone was like, the guy had texted one and was like, I thought you were gonna meet me here. And the person goes, I thought you were gonna meet me here. Do you want to go? And the other guy's like, do I want to go? Yeah, let's go right now. And he's like, yeah, let's go right now. But it
shows the different perspectives.
It's so fucking funny. I'm telling you, like, if you've never seen that Key and Peele skit, you have to, because that to me is like the perfect example of how
misinterpreting.
Yes,
words.
And people read something in the current mood they're in. Right. So if you're in a feisty, like angry,
that's true.
frustrated.
I never thought about that. Like if I'm angry and like even my nanny or somebody to like message me, I'm like, well, that was short. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. I'm in a pissy mood right now. Like, it's not short.
And that's why I feel texting and emails and anything that's the written word can be so dangerous because you literally, like, they're going to read it in whatever mood they are in, regardless of how you intended it.
Do you know what's so funny as an artist? Like, a lot of us text our clients back and forth, right? And I remember clients would have issues, and this was like before I even had my salon, and I was kind of renting and doing my own things. And clients, I kind of got to this place where I'm like, God, if a client's uncomfortable with a piece of their hair, maybe it's too blonde or too dark or too light, they might actually, as a client, feel uncomfortable like texting that to the artist, right?
Yeah.
And I remember I would get the text, and I'd automatically, like, my feathers would ruffle, and I'd be like, well, fuck her, she was stupid, and da-da-da-da-da. and I would get so triggered because it's like our art, and we feel like we did a good job, and like whatever it is. And so I remember I'd get so irritated if somebody would text me, and I would say, hey, can you jump on a call? And it was funny because clients, I even had a couple situations where clients were like, oh, sorry, like they'd make up, I could tell they were making up excuses via text, like, oh, sorry, like I'm picking up kids or I'm doing this and this. I'm like, no problem. When are you free? I'd rather not discuss this with a text. And so I started doing that because I'm like, if you don't like your hair, or if you don't like me, or you don't like whatever, I'll give you an out, but you got to tell me to my face. And nobody, it's never that way. Like,
because people are so ballsy behind a fucking keyboard.
But even then, it's like you can be so frustrated and be telling yourself a story and be like, she was short on time, like that's why I got a half-assed job, and that's why da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? And she could be like super, super pissed. But then if like I jumped on a conversation with her, I was like, oh, I'm sorry, on the day of the appointment, I thought you wanted to be closer. And it's just like a conversation.
Yes.
And then it just like kind of it calms everything down, and then everybody can talk. But I kind of got to this place where I just am like, even through emails, if I get an email of somebody like that seems kind of upset or anything, my response is like, thank you so much for this email. Thank you for your feedback. Can you get on a call? And that's all I say.
Yeah.
I'm like, because you can't misinterpret that.
Well, and here's the thing. Sometimes people just want to be heard. Like,
Right.
honestly,
Totally.
they just want
to be
someone
heard.
to listen.
They were triggered, whatever it was, and they just want somebody to listen. And then for me, even, like, sometimes I'll just want Garrett to listen. I have to tell him, I was like, I don't want you to try to solve anything.
Oh, Garrett's a solver.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want you to solve anything. I'm super frustrated, and I want to talk. I want to tell you the story or whatever it is. And it's funny, if he allows me to, because he has a hard time being like zipping it, but if he allows me to express what I'm trying to communicate, oftentimes I will solve my own problem by hearing myself say it out loud.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, you know what? Okay, I can see why this person felt this way or this and that and that. And I'm like, that makes sense. And so sometimes you just, like you said, you just need to be heard, and you need somebody to listen to. And that, like, I just feel like, yeah.
Yeah. And it's so funny because whenever I talk to my boyfriend, I'm like, listen to what just happened. And I know, like, I know my tone and my mannerisms and my facial expressions are so much, like, I'm such an animated person. I don't know how to ever calm that down. And there'll be times where I tell a story and I look at him, like, waiting for him to say anything, and he'll just be like,
Well, he's so chill. Like,
he's so
like,
fucking chill. And then, well, I've asked him, I'm like, why aren't you saying anything? He goes, I feel like you're yelling at me. I'm like, I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling to you to express how I feel.
I used to think that with you, you would like, we would Voxer back and forth, which is like a walkie-talkie app. And I remember I was pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
Do you remember? And I was
It
like,
was rough.
I was like, I just feel like you're mad and you're yelling at me. And you're like, oh. I was like, it's your tone, Ani. I'm like, I don't know how to express it, but like your tone is triggering me. And then I want to be like, fuck you. This is the plan. I'm the boss. And now I know, like, your tone was just like get shit done tone.
Because we gotta get shit done.
You're like an implementer. So you're constantly like, go, 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 go. But it took me a while to be like, she's not mad. She's getting shit done mode.
But you know what? I feel like it also took me time to learn your tone. Because
Yeah.
there'd be times where you'd say things and I'd be like, that's the fucking thing you chose to say. I'm like, that's what we're choosing for real. That, and then I'm like, you know what? Wait,
I'm a stater of the obvious. I like, it's like you said last week, it's an incomplete thought. I just like say something and then I like walk away.
Can I tell you the most recent instance you did that?
I know.
It was fine. You said it to me, so
Okay.
it's fine. No, it was something you said to me. We were voxing back and forth. It was me, you, and Katie, the director of operations. It was right as like we were ending ticket sales for like the virtual experience, and you're like, guys, you did so good with this, da-da. Notice you didn't put it on your social media, and I'm like, really? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, Danielle? We've been busting ass on these goddamn tickets, and all you tell me is I didn't post it on my fucking social media. And I literally looked at it. I looked at my phone, and I was like,
And you know what? You posted on social media.
I was like, you know what, Danielle? Okay, I'm gonna post it on
Well,
fucking
because
social
we're
media.
sitting there and we're like, we got to get the students to post this. We got to have one last push. And I'm like posting my butt off. And I look at your guys' social medias and I was like, you two are not exempt.
And for me, I was like, yeah, I know we're not exempt, but I've been busy on the road proving
Right.
all these emails
Right.
and doing these groups. Like,
It's like the smallest. No, but this is the thing. this is the thing. It's the smallest thing with the least amount of importance that actually makes a big difference sometimes. Seriously.
No, and I'm not even disagreeing
it's
with
like
you.
if you can't do the little shit, well, you do the big shit too.
I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. For me, you know what it is? It comes to a decision of when I know I'm like, I have this much time, it's like my brain almost starts like prioritizing. You know, like on a computer, you can like, if you have a column in Excel, you can do like sort it A through Z. It's like a button in my mind goes click, sort. And after that, I'm like,
you're like, checklist.
It's literally like, what's code red, red, yellow. I'm sorry, that's on the bottom of the list. And then I start running through my list.
Though. I have a hard time prioritizing, but I am like a checklister. Like I'm like, I don't care what it is. Like we've got to get this, and this done. And I'm like, and I almost get like weirdly obsessive where I think I Voxer you the same things. I'm like, do we get this done? Do we get this done? Do we get this done?
You do.
And I know. And you're like, Danielle, I told you we got it done.
My favorite response is, we got this, Danielle.
I know. But I always tell people, I'm like, if something goes wrong in your business, it's your fault. Like really. Yeah. Like whether it's an assistant, like no matter who it is. Like I used to get so mad at other people, like my assistants or whatever, and be like, okay, in the end, that's my fault. Because even though they have a job, I am the owner, and it's my responsibility to follow up to make sure that job got done. And not only did it get done, but did it get done the way I wanted it to? And if it didn't, then I need to be like, hey, let's do this, which we've done a ton too. I'll be like, hey, I saw that email. Let's change this, and this. Because if I'm not involved, then I can't be the rudder of my company. I can't predict the direction we're going.
Yeah, and I think it's very cool because I feel like you and I we're aiming for the same direction, but we have eyes going separate ways. So anything that like you miss, I catch. Anything I miss, you catch. Like that's why even when you were like, oh yeah, this is going great, but I noticed you didn't post it on your Instagram. I was like, I'm like, I got it. But I was like, literally for a second, I was like, but then I was like, just fucking post it. Who gives a shit and get it done with? And I thought it was so fucking funny. So it's just, you just kind of have to have eyes everywhere. And here's something that I've told people before and that's why I feel I really do understand, even at times when you're like, did we do this? And I'm like, yeah. And then the next day you're like, but did we do it? I'm like, yeah. And then you're like, but did we do it? I'm like, yeah. It's because I always say to people like my trainers, my trainees, or people that like are under me that like, not because they're beneath me, but like people who are like under me in the company working, I always say like, this has to go like this, because guess what? If shit goes wrong, it's not your head in the guillotine. It's mine. Yeah. It's my neck that's on the line. It's my position, my job. So I'm not going to have shit fucked up. And that's the same for you. Shit goes sideways. Although whoever might be accountable at the end of the day, it's your head, your family, your money.
Well, and even last year, like to give you an example, like I wasn't in charge of like my campaign for like my big education and stuff. And literally like Garrett came in and he's like, we closed it down. I was like, what the fuck do you mean you closed it down? And he's like, because I was like transitioning to getting more involved. Was that last year or the year before?
What decade are we in?
It was like 2019, like early, like January 2019.
About a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it was like a year and a half ago. And I just remember I was so irritated with how like the campaign went, and I felt like we could have sold like double the tickets, and I was so irritated, and I was like, it's my fault. I'm like, I didn't know the emails going out. I didn't know the structure. I didn't know anything. All I knew is I created a funnel. Woohoo! I created some sales videos. Woohoo! But I didn't know. And this time, with me being more involved, I think was good because I'd be like, hey, what's working, what's not? And then we could work together based on like, okay, everybody thinks there's like a checklist to marketing. Like you just do something and then it's supposed to work. But we learned so much just even this last.
And I think this was the best round we've ever had.
It was. And I was even saying, I'm like, cool. So like next year we're going to have a live convention and we'll probably have a virtual convention. Like now that we know how to do both and we learned how much time we need to promote something, we learned what email, like we just learned so much, just kind of course correcting along the way instead of just assuming like, we didn't sell as many as we want. Oh, well, we'll try next year. No, well, why didn't we sell as many as we want?
Where did it go wrong?
Why did we lose momentum here? And it was like, by the time we closed tickets, I was like, I feel like we were just figuring it out. I was like,
I know, but I feel like we learned, like you're right, we learned so much that now we can start implementing. But if you notice, everything we're talking about is accountability. Accountability in things that you do, accountability in things that you don't do, accountability in things that you say, accountability in things you don't say.
You cannot course correct if you don't take accountability.
Or even it's accountability for your own fucking feelings. Because seriously, like for something, it just irritates me when people are like, well, you made me feel that way. Well, hold up. Technically, you're in charge of your own feelings. Although I can understand how the things I said could have have triggered you to go that way.
Right.
And that's why whether you're having problems with your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your children, your assistants, your staff, a business partner, it's so easy to point the finger and blame someone else. It's very difficult to take accountability.
Even when I have like girlfriends or whatever talking about their boyfriend or whatever having issues in this, first off, I always go, don't tell me too much in case you get back together. I don't want to know. If I know too much, I'm going to be like that dick and like whatever. I'm like, I know too much, but I know.
You used to do that to me too.
I know. I have several girlfriends. They'd come to me and like be like, he's a bada bada bada. And I was like, earmuffs.
You know how you guys have broken up and got back together 17 times?
Like,
I
want to love him like you love him. Don't tell me anymore. even though I was like, I don't know if I like him or not. I just didn't want to go there. And even when Garrett and I had like serious issues in our marriage, I never went to my mom because I was like, if we work this out, like she's gonna have like not bad feelings, but she'll always
it'll be like tainted.
Well, she can't unhear things, right? Even if she like loves him and like appreciates him, there are certain things like she might not be able to unhear, you know? So I just think in a relationship, it's so important, like you said, like just to be accountable because there's two people in a relationship. So even when I have girlfriends that are like telling me their stories of their crazy boyfriends or whatever, and then they stay with them and I'm like, there's two people in a relationship. So you need to understand, like he sounds like a crazy person, but I'm starting to think you're a little crazy.
Or really, so honestly, sometimes it's both of you. You both like to trigger the fuck out of each other. And we've talked about this in previous podcasts, but what I want you guys to do is like really think about like either the last argument you have with someone or like a current disagreement that you're in with someone and really think about everything you've said. Oh, well, he did. But in any point, way, shape, or time, have you really been like, you know what? I did. And I'm a really big fan of, and I say this all the time, and my boyfriend hates it. I always say, okay, if I had said to you what you said to me, or if I had responded this way, or if I had done this, how would you feel in this moment? And he is not a fan of that because then he always goes, you always say that. I'm like, because I think that's a really good way to kind of take yourself out of, oh yeah, well, it's your fault. Well, if you were the other person, would you still be saying it's would you now be saying it's your fault, or would you still find some way to blame them again?
Right. It's funny, Garrett always says to me, because I'll be like, you always do that. Like, if he does something that triggers me or whatever, takes me back to, like, the past, I'm like, you always say that. And then he goes, that's a blanket statement. And it drives me fucking nuts. Like, the last argument we had, I said something to him, and he goes, that's a blanket statement. And I'm like, you need to get over your fucking blanket statements. I'm like, because you do this shit all the time. And I'm like, so I can say, you do this a lot. I'm like, and don't tell me I'm a blanket. Just take accountability that you do this shit a lot. And then he later, the next day, he was like, yeah, thanks for calling me out, babe. And I was like, I just went to bed because I could feel myself wanting to just explode.
have said that to my boyfriend. I'd be like, you do this all the time. You're consistently doing it. And he'll be like, consistently that's a little much, don't you think? So now I go, you're doing it more often than you are not. You're doing it more often than not.
That's what I said to Garrett. I'm like, you do, like, basically I just was like, you do this a lot. Otherwise I wouldn't say you always do this. And I'm sorry if the word always triggers you.
Or my response is, okay, fine. Maybe you don't do it consistently or continuously, but how many times have I now brought up the same topic of conversation that obviously it's a problem. It's happening enough. Yeah. But then also, I know there are things where he's like, how many times have we talked about this for you? And I'm like, a lot. Well, when you say it like that, it sure makes sense, doesn't it? That's why I'm not sitting here like throwing him under the rug or the bus or like pulling out the rug out from under him. I know there are things that I do that are fucking irritating and trigger the shit out of him. I know there are. Like,
I feel
we're
like
human beings.
Yeah, I was going to say, Garrett and I are in a pretty good space now to where we can like see it going south, and we'll kind of be like, all right, let's like revisit this conversation maybe in the morning, and then when we both like calm down a minute, then we're usually pretty good and we can have like a logical conversation. But there's been times in the past where we got heated, and that's when the triggering or the stuff you can't unsay comes out.
That's why I don't like to speak in anger. And there have been times where I'm like, you like can literally feel it, and you're like, well, you are.
Yeah, it doesn't ever end well. It's just brought up some dark memories for me. So.
Well, and that's why I always say, like, put yourself in the shoes of the other person,
Right.
If at that point, like, because if you're saying, oh, well, Sally said this and fuck her, she's a bitch. Okay, well, let's say you're Sally.
What role did you play? You always have to ask yourself, what role did I play in getting in this situation? Like, no
one's innocent.
Yeah, everybody plays an active role, regardless of who's right or who's wrong or whoever thinks who's right and wrong. wrong. You played an active role in what was happening. So,
or I'm also going to say this for you women that are sitting there, you're like, but I really don't do anything. I just like sit there and I'm quiet. Okay, sometimes quiet is done to irritate the other person, or they'll say something and you won't say anything, but you'll like raise your eyebrow or go like, you're doing it on purpose. Don't play innocent.
I would say that you put women like that, because I used to be a little bit more quiet, and I would just say it was because I was a conflict avoider. And we've talked about this in some of our other shows, and I always think women say, I'm just a people pleaser. Fuck you. You're not a people pleaser. You're a conflict avoider. You don't bring up tough conversations because you're trying to avoid conflict. You're not a people pleaser. Yeah, that was...
So, well, we're coming to the end of our podcast. Let's go for another 10 days.
That was kind of a fiery one. So, you know what? But I was so irritated when I heard what was going on. And then I watched the video, and then I watched a couple of the interviews, and I was like, come on.
Take accountability. And if you feel safe enough to go into the salon, then all salons need to open back up.
Exactly. And that's what's so frustrating. I'm just going to say this is I feel like our industry has like been like the kind of the forgotten industry, and people don't realize how much they actually use these services and how much they love their hairdressers and how it makes them feel like we are so discounted as an industry altogether, right?
Yeah.
And I just think it's such bullshit. And so I think it's like, because even in like Orange County, I think salons just started opening up. Like I saw so many that were just like, fuck it. I got kids. I got a livelihood. I got rent to pay. I got bills to pay. There's no more PPP loans. There's nothing coming in. I got to pay for shit. And I think that because more and more salons were opening up, I think that's why they did another recount of the numbers, because they're kind of like, okay, well, otherwise, if people weren't just kind of opening up, we would have kind of been the forgotten industry. We're like, oh yeah, should we check the numbers so we can see if the salons can open back up?
Oops,
sorry guys. But yet you're going to people's homes, you're going to private salons, you're partaking in the services in which of an industry is just forgotten about, I feel like. So that's why I like watching this whole thing. I was like, I'm fucking done. Like, I'm fucking done. Like, it's so ridiculous. But that's also too why, like, I feel like everything we do inside of the industry is like hairdressers are looked at as like a certain way.
Yeah.
And one of my strong beliefs is I think that hairdressers are super hardworking and we make good money. There's a lot that don't make good money, but I think the fact that we're taken not seriously drives me crazy. And that's why we birthed BMS and the business marketing and sales, so that we can teach artists to be successful artists. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because artists are looked at it a certain way, and it drives me crazy. So anyways, I know we're coming to an end of this podcast, but
thank you for listening. You can watch us at dkwstyling.com. If you would like to be interested and join any of our education, we are actually sold out for 2020, which is mind-blowing.
But jump on our email list, because we'll be sending out updates soon for probably classes as soon as January. And I know that seems like far away, but it's really like right around the corner. So.
Yeah, it's really not that far. And you can join the waitlist at bigmoneystylist.com. Until then, by the way, I will say we've been getting a ton of messages about the podcast, and all of you that filled out applications to come. If you're listening, I literally went through and read through every single one. So for those of you that talked about the podcast and how much you love it, thank you so much. Like, you guys are the reason
Share
that we
it with
do
your
this.
friends.
Yes.
Even if they don't do hair, I have a lot of clients that listen to it. They're like, I love your podcast. It's spicy. So share it, and thank you guys so much for listening. Again, you can catch it at dkwstyling.com. Every Tuesday we share a new episode. So we'll see you next week.
Bye.